And we're live. Fantastic. That was like hanging then. I was thinking, are we going to have a problem? Is it not going to go? Right. So here we are, another Thursday, 12 o'clock, the Green Umbrella live lunch again. It's one of those weeks where you've got us chatting about what's been happening in the social media world, what the updates are, the things that kind of stood out for us, either things we're excited about, things we need to make sure all our clients need to know about and take action on. So yeah, it's been a bit of a weird week, social media wise. Actually, the news has been. Well, there's been lots and lots of talk still about what the trends are going to be this year. So I've been looking at lots of articles around that sort of stuff and nodding along with some stuff and shaking my head at other things that I just don't think are going to be those trends. And don't ask me what those are, because those ones I haven't committed to memory. So don't test me on that. But yeah, what have you guys been looking at this week? What have you been seeing? Emily, let's kick off with you, because we were just talking about something as we went live. So let's dig into that.
So the first thing that I was going to talk about was that I noticed this morning when I went to add a post in LinkedIn, that it came up with a pop-up box, and at the bottom of the box where you usually write the post, it said you can now choose who you would like to comment. And when I clicked into that, it said that I could choose basically anyone can comment or nobody can comment, and you switch the comments off. So I came into Live Lunch thinking, oh, this is great, this is a brand new thing, no one's seen this. And then I said to Christina, just to make sure, is this a new thing? And she said to me, it's been there for a year.
Do you know, honestly, the problem is we see stuff and it's like they're testing this or they're testing that, and not everything comes to fruition, first of all. But also, when the social media platforms do roll something out, and with LinkedIn, this is certainly the case, some things come through much quicker than others. So although I've had that for months and months and months and months, there's still people that haven't got it yet. So it's kind of, it's tricky. It might be that it's new to you, but it's like it's been there for ages.
Because the thing that made me think it was new is obviously I hadn't noticed it before. I'm in there every day, so I probably would have noticed it. And also the fact that it came up with this, you know, when there's a new update and there's almost like a pop-up and it says, oh, this is new, check this out, kind of thing. That's what it did. And I even took a screenshot of it because I was going to send it before this, before Live Lunch, but I didn't have time, didn't get around to it. Anyway, it's new to me, so I figured I'd talk about it anyway because it might be new to other people. And I thought it was quite a good thing. I was going to sort of go down the line of saying how, I mean, not that people really troll that often on LinkedIn, and if they do, well, that's up to them, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's a good thing anyway. The fact that you can monitor comments, I feel a bit weird talking about it if people have had it for ages, but to me it's new, and I thought it was a good thing.
But people may not have thought about it. So the thing for me when I first read about it was that I thought, why would you not want people to comment on your post?
Yeah,
it's that's kind true. Of like I don't get the purpose of it.
Unless it's something that's a bit controversial or something that, I mean, at least there's the option there. I mean, I get it. I think you would want people to comment 9 times out of 10, but there might be an occasion when you don't, and now you have the option, whereas before you didn't.
So in Facebook groups, do you know, I'm saying this, I hope the option's still there. But it used to be, let's say you had a post in a Facebook group that just went wild and people constantly commenting, and like you could be replying to the post itself or replying to a particular comment in the thread and all that kind of stuff. It all gets very messy. So you had the option of turning that off at that point. So it's almost like you kind of said, like, that's enough on that post now. So I get it in that scenario, but to create a post and set it so that no one can comment on it, it just feels a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah. No, I do think that as well. I think it's like you said, it's not really, for me, that that sort of functionality, I guess, works well on a platform like Instagram or something like that, where people might just want to share a photo so that they can look back on it. And it's not necessarily, not everybody's on Instagram purely for the engagement. Some people like it to share photos so that they can look back on, and sort of like an online photo album type thing. And also a lot of sort of, I know bloggers and influencers and things quite often turn comments off on specific posts just so that they don't receive any negative comments, if maybe it's the time when they're getting quite a lot of negative comments. But yeah, I think, yeah, I do agree. LinkedIn, I mean, I think it's good that the functionality is there, like I said, if they're on the very rare occasion that you might want it, but 9 times out of 10, I don't really see why you would use it actually.
No. It does raise something quite interesting that I think a lot of people miss, and that's the fact that, you know, on LinkedIn, every post you do as an individual, you can choose, do you want this to be public? Anyone can see it. Do you want to restrict that post so that only your connections see that piece of content? You know, or sorry, this is about people commenting on it rather. So, you know, do you want to close it down so actually only your connections are able to comment on that post? And again, you know, you can set it so no one comments, but I think it's quite interesting to be able to have that ability. If you're asking for opinions and you want to keep it kind of closed community, having that option there is, you know, I think that I see a use case from that perspective. I know I've put stuff out before and ended up with quite a few comments on, and you've got people, just because of the hashtags you've used maybe, or a couple of people that have commented already, this post's ended up in their feed and all of a sudden the conversation's taken a different angle. Or you've got a really good post and all of a sudden someone's commented with something where they're like selling Forex training and promising to make you a billionaire in 3.5 weeks' time. So I think if you've got a bigger network on LinkedIn, and you know, there are people we know where they've got like 25,000 connections, and in that scenario, I think maybe being able to restrict who can and can't comment might be a good idea, just in terms of managing the conversation. But it's interesting. And then if you bring that over to Facebook, you know, every post you do, you're able to control who can and can't see that post. So some of the posts that I do, I'm friends only. Some of the posts I do, I'm quite happy for anyone to see those. And especially when my children were younger, I was really careful about what was public and what wasn't. Just in terms of sort of safeguarding them, really. But it's interesting. We've had this ability to control who sees our stuff, who can engage with our stuff for quite a long time. But I don't think people think about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you guys ever consider it, or
no? To be honest,
on a personal level, same. I'm, there's things I put out on Facebook, maybe or Instagram, that I either kind of don't, necessarily want to be around forever. It's just a quick question, or I only want my friends to see it. I don't want friends of friends or public to see it. And it's not because it's kind of controversial or riotous parties, sadly, but it's just like these people are in my network for a reason. Particularly on Facebook, that's kind of, to me, more personal. So I just don't want sort of any person seeing the banal stuff I put out about me and my dog. It's deeply personal stuff.
Excellent.
For me on Facebook, the only sort of thing that I have, I guess, set up like that is so I can't remember the term for it, but if I get tagged in a photograph, I then have to approve or decline that tag before it shows on my feed. And yeah, I don't really know why I set that up. I guess I was being sensible at one point in my life and thinking about security.
that was the one time then, Emily.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, okay. So, Amanda, let's come to you. What have you been looking at this week? What have you got to share with us? What have you been talking to clients about this week?
Yeah, it's been a busy old week. I've got to say I'm shattered as well. So apologies for not kind of on shiniest form, but I think it was the storm. It's been stormy. It's been keeping us up, hasn't it? But
You know, I'm like, yeah, she does look a bit rough, doesn't she? I'm joking.
Wow. Don't hold back, Christina.
It does. It feels like it's been another busy week. Literally just before live lunch, I was in a meeting with the South region of Teams, so the employment agents movement. And there was a lot of recruiters in there that were saying actually they feel like 2021 has started off pretty well, which is good. You know, there's obviously a lot of crappy news still around, but there's certainly the sentiment seems to be positive. And I was chatting to some of our clients about partnership marketing, so kind of collaborating on projects. Obviously, live lunch last week there was a real theme of collaboration in that as well, with the Claire on talking about SME Monthly. Yeah. So we've got two fantastic clients who are essentially they've got two bits of software that they're integrating, which to them is really exciting, and it is, and it's going to make life easier for their customers. But there is an element, and this is not sort of doing them down, but there is an element of so what. And I think companies get really excited when they do have this new initiative where they've plugged two bits together or they're working together, and they really want to shout about it. But my first reaction is, okay, so what? We need to make this exciting enough for the people on the receiving end to go, okay, so now I have to click one button rather than two. You know, it's not the sort of thing that's going to make them stop dead while they're scrolling. So we were exploring ways that we could get that message out there. You know, the best way to kind of go, hey, look, we've done this. It might not rock your world as much as it's rocked ours, but trust us, it's going to make your life easier. So we were talking about the best ways to get that message out, and also how a lot of content tends to be a bit of a one-hit wonder. So, you know, we'll do a blog about it, we'll do a news release about it, and that will probably be it, because they were like, well then what else? What else will we do? So Jenny, who doesn't always feature on our live lunch, but is a big part of the GU team, she and I were saying about the importance of making sure this message stays out there, because it is a bit, you know, in the world of the customer, they're having messages bombarded at them all the time. So we need to keep going. Well, just because we did one blog doesn't mean they're going to remember it. It's important to us. It's less important to them. So we need to keep reminding them, but in different ways. So just kind of mixing up the message. So yeah, that's been quite a good way to kind of start the morning, quite not controversially, but a little bit kind of, you know, poking the bear a bit, but to try and get a creative message out there.
Yeah. Do you know, it's this thing again, isn't it? When people think about, you know, a piece of content and that they don't think long term with it. They, you know, if I could wave a magic wand, people would be talking about creating assets rather than creating content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like every blog that you write, you've got to think longevity. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be the press releases that are very much here and now. And, you know, next week, it's like it's forgotten about. But the reality is, when you're doing something that you know is going to be big for your business, you generally know it's coming. You know, you've put days, weeks, months, years maybe into this thing that you're creating. So actually, when it comes close to launch, how can you seed into the content you're creating, into the posts you're putting on LinkedIn or Facebook, into the articles you're writing, the videos you're creating, and actually start to prick up people's ears in terms of awareness that you know, there is this problem. Sometimes the people that you're trying to reach don't know that they have that problem yet. We need to educate them about the problem. So, you know, the hassle of having to hit those two buttons rather than just the one. If they've never thought about it before, if they've never thought about the amount of time it takes, and wouldn't it be fantastic if these two bits of software could work as, you know, have a seamless integration, how much better their lives would be. You know, if we can do that prior, actually, when that article goes out to say, ta-da, here it is, here's the answer to your prayers, then people are like, they're ready and waiting for it. They're going to be more excited about it anyway. And then actually, because they're more excited about it, it's going to be easier for you to collect testimonials from people that adopt the technology or buy into whatever your solution is, which then gives you that content to move forward with. You can talk about best use cases and, you know, all that sort of stuff, and create some content that way as well. You know,
So what you're saying, Christina, is it's like creating a funnel.
It's always about the funnel.
Create that awareness before you get the interest, and then you get the solution that makes them take action.
Yes, but so in the last couple of years, when people are talking about funnels, there's this kind of like, you've got your traditional funnel, but actually at the point you've made that sale, someone's taken that action, whatever it is, it goes the other way.
Yeah. Yes.
For those people that have adopted, actually, they need to become advocates of your brand, of your solution. It's, they need to be, when they're at their virtual pubs, and they're talking about how much, oh yeah, I found this great bit of kit this week. It's going to make my life so much easier. You need to talk to Amanda at Green Umbrella, or, it's, do you know what I mean? It's like, actually, how can we build that bit in and leverage on that side of it as well? So yeah, everything fits into a funnel. And I know, I probably, because of your comment, I'm suddenly very, very aware of the fact that, maybe if we were going to play Christina Bingo, funnel would be one of the words that were on there. But I really could build a funnel in a funnel in a funnel in a funnel. So yeah. Well, thanks for that, man. I'm going to write that one down. I need like synonyms for funnel.
We should have a live lunch bingo at least, shouldn't we? What words do you want to say? The bingo cards here. But, there's nothing wrong with bringing it back, because that is, essentially what marketing is. It's about taking people from point A to point B, or A to Z, however you want to do it.
It's about the funnel.
just put Paul's little comment on screen there. Always about the funnel. Hashtag not a euphemism. There we go. Sorry, Amanda. Before you crack on, Paul's made another comment there. Snazzy background. I just need to say a great big thank you to Mark. Logged into StreamYard today, and he's rebranded us on StreamYard, and it's like, I was like, oh, it looks so good. But look how the comments are coming up as well. Very smart. Very, very smart. Paul's just made another comment.
It only took 40-odd episodes for me to get my arse into gear to do it, though.
Don't talk about that, Mark. Positive. Focus on the positive.
It was a very positive morning sorting that out, yeah.
It's done now, and it looks great.
Clients first. That's fine. Clients first.
I've got more ideas now, though, how we can use it better. It'll change again by next week.
Oh, dear.
Excellent. Cool. So, Amanda, what else have you been working on? Anything else for you to share, or?
Yeah, it has been a real variety this week. So there have been some other changes on LinkedIn, which I won't go into. But I did have a client who suddenly kind of realised that there was lots of other functions. So rather than just doing post, kind of here's some words, here's an image, even though they kind of knew there was an option to do a poll, there was an option to do what we call a carousel post or a PDF. So they sort of knew it, but they'd never really put it into practice. And we've started helping them kind of mix it up a little bit. They've just put a poll out, got really good engagement with it, more than probably any other post they've done, certainly this year. So it's just those things that we kind of know, but they're in the back of our heads and we don't always put them into action. Make sure you've got that variety. What is it you kind of know, but you're not doing? So yeah, it's just some little things like that that are kind of mixing things up. I've been working on some LinkedIn ads. I've been writing. Been a lovely bit of variety this week in the GU world.
Excellent. We like to keep
thinking. Sorry, I was going to say, thinking of what Amanda just said though about the polls. One of our clients actually, they did a poll last week. Loads of people voted in it. Loads of people wrote comments. So we've turned it into a blog. So it's just a really good idea if you get a lot of content out of a poll with something else to do with it. Reuse it.
Exactly. It's like we said, they don't have to be one-hit wonders. Every bit of content could create and then what? So you get all sorts of content around it. So
we're working with someone on a website perspective, from a website perspective at the minute, and we're very early stages on the website, and they were saying, I've got all these blog ideas. But I don't quite know where to start in terms of getting them written, and I need to do my LinkedIn content. And I said, okay, every week I want you to, on a Tuesday and a Thursday, I want you to take one of those blog ideas, just write a paragraph, just pose the question or whatever it is, set the scene, and then just do a paragraph and ask people for their thoughts. Okay, and just whilst we're working through this process of creating your website, I just want you to do that consistently. They're like, yeah, okay. Now, what will happen is at the point their website launches, because they've been doing those 2 posts a week, we should be able to tell, which of those topics people are actually interested in, because they're going to get the likes, they're going to get the comments. And some of them might not get any traction at all. And we know, okay, let's just, we'll put that on the back burner. We won't worry about it. So, definitely you can really test things through your social media posting, whether it is LinkedIn or Facebook, if it is doing polls, that kind of stuff. You can kind of really test out some content ideas, get a bit of a temperature check about what people care about right now. What is that thing that, what's a topic in your sector that people are passionate about or not, before you go through that process of creating 500 words, 800 words on that topic. So definitely it's a really good way of testing your ideas. So Jane, let's come to you then. What have you been discovering this week?
Really, only stuff to do with Pinterest this week. So they have finally decided to launch stories, just like everybody else. They're just testing it at the moment, though. So you may or you may not have it. It may never roll out if it doesn't, if it doesn't catch on. But their stories are slightly different in that they're not for 24 hours. So they will stay there basically till you replace them with something else. They're same vertical format that stories seem to take on everywhere else. They will be at the top of your feed when you log in, like they are on other platforms. And there's also a sort of multi-participant group thing that they're testing as well. So that'll be quite interesting if they actually go ahead with it. So that's what I'm going to keep an eye on. I mean, I don't really use Pinterest that much myself, but it's really interesting to see what new functionalities they bring into it, because it's not been as much of an engagement platform, more as a sort of looking at things platform. So actually this brings it back to being a bit more about engagement. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one.
I think it's interesting that they're keeping them there, because for me, stories, the whole point of stories is that they are a snapshot, they are 24 hours. So the fact that they're going to be there all the time until you replace them, I wonder if that will make people, it's basically like creating a post, isn't it? But it's just the post that stays, or a pin, but the pin stays at the top. Yeah. And I wonder if that will, because it's the same as, I guess, adding a normal pin, it's just at the top. I wonder if that will sort of encourage people to use it for that reason, or the fact that it's going to stay there is going to put people off and then they'll just think, oh, I'll just add a normal pin instead. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see, but I wonder why they took that angle as well, the 24 hours. I mean, the permanent thing instead of the 24 hours. Yeah, interesting.
Jane, there's not really been that much happening in the advertising world over the last week or two, has there? It's been sort of fairly quiet. It was interesting, I thought, that sort of given everything that's happened in the US over the last few weeks. So Facebook, they turned off any ads that were going to be potentially showing or targeted in the vicinity of the inauguration and that kind of stuff. So I think that was quite an intelligent move, given sort of what had been going on. But the other thing that I've noticed about Facebook ads and sort of the noise around that, firstly, I think we've had a record number of inquiries in January for people wanting to use LinkedIn advertising, use Campaign Manager over there. So there's definitely a bit more of a shift where LinkedIn is more expensive and we know that, but we want to use it anyway. So for me, that's quite interesting. But there's also been a lot of articles coming out from the people that we look to for our information about basically, what to do if your ads get stopped. You know, there's been so many problems with Facebook advertising, accounts being shut down, ads being refused when they shouldn't be, and stuff like that over the last sort of 3-4 months, that right now there's a lot of noise around kind of, you know, people are now understanding how to deal with those situations, how to get through to Facebook, how to appeal this stuff and get a positive outcome. So there's a lot of content around about that. But Facebook are also introducing, basically, when you go into Business Manager, you're going to have a tab where you'll be able to keep track of any ads that you've done, posts as well, actually, organic posts as well. But it's set up more for the advertising side of things, where you've had an ad rejected or it's been held back because there is something that's violating its policies. And what they've kind of promised, I use the word promised loosely, is that they will give you more information as to the reason why your ad's been rejected. So I'm hoping that's a positive sign. We need to see it come to fruition, and I'm sure we'll report back when that happens. But I'm hoping that all these sorts of all the issues that we've seen with Facebook advertising, I'm hoping that they're kind of, it's all done now, and whatever glitches have been in the system, Facebook have been able to overcome. So that's what I'm hoping from that update.
Definitely.
So Mark, I'm going to come to you now. As always, you're very quiet, sat there.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I'm fed up with this lighting situation going on. I'm trying to subtly adjust my post-it, and every time it just goes
down a bit more with it, Emily.
Right, that's it. It's going to happen. I'm sorry. We'll just ignore it.
Fantastic. So come on, Mark. What have you been working on? What have you been experimenting with? What trends are you seeing?
I suppose one thing, it's something we've touched on quite a bit over the last few months, is people still thinking about how they can sell online, and perhaps companies that wouldn't normally sell their products and services in that way have perhaps recognised that, given the current situation, they've got to look at other ways of getting their products out there. So, you know, even people that perhaps offer a service are trying to then offer complementary products as well that can be, you know, sold online, just to give them a bit of residual income and things like that. So I think that's definitely still a trend out there.
Absolutely. Do you know, I think people, obviously, we put the websites that we build, we work with WordPress, so we know it's quite, I'm going to say, straightforward. It's really easy. Mark's like, don't tell people that, Christina. But, you know, working with WordPress, it's really flexible. If we suddenly wanted to, publish books, okay, so some of our ebooks, we wanted to be able to sell them hard copy, it wouldn't be a whole new website to have to, you know, to be able to add that functionality in, to have a, you know, add to cart for people to be able to check out, because we've got the flexibility in the website. And I think that's the thing. Sometimes people are put off because they think there's this like barrier for them to take this stuff online. You know, you don't need to suddenly start, you know, secondary websites or anything like that. What do you think people's expectations are of the process when they're kind of having those conversations with you?
As a client, as in our client or their customer, do you mean? Sorry.
Either or, to be honest. Like, what are the blocks? What are the things that people are thinking? Oh, I need to do this, but
I think some of the practical things that are not almost related to the website itself so much. So it's the practical things of like delivery, you know, arranging that side of thing. I think perhaps that's probably more problematic for some people than perhaps even, you know, the website side of things. The website thing, you know, you can set up, you can have obviously multiple different options, but from a client point of view, they've just got to be clear on how they're going to deliver the product to their client. So it's obviously getting those sort of things in place as well. These days, pretty much payment gateways are very simple. Obviously, we use Stripe ourselves, so you've got options like that that are really easy to hook into, you know, whether it be WordPress or another system that you can use for your e-commerce. So it's almost the other things that perhaps you don't think of, if that makes sense. I think the website bit is actually fairly straightforward these days in terms of, you know, you've got a product, what's the price, etc. But how do we actually get that to the client? So are we posting it? Are we delivering it? You know, is it click and collect? You know, it's those practical things I think that people perhaps don't think about straight away. They perhaps have an idea that, oh, just get it on the website and sell it, which, yeah, the website bit you can do, but then obviously there are other elements to that process as well.
Yeah, cool. Slightly random question. So this is a question for all of you, a bit of a straw poll. When you're on a website and you get your checkout options, okay, and you can go, so I was talking to someone and they were basically saying, no, don't use PayPal, use Stripe. Because if you use PayPal, it looks a bit kind of almost like you're a tin pot establishment, whereas Stripe creates a perception of, you know, being something more. And I was like, does it?
No, I don't think so.
No, I think it just depends. For me personally, I think it depends what it is, because I think if you, from a customer point of view, if you use Stripe, you're using your actual card. So the problem is, say if you're buying something large and you bought on PayPal, there isn't the insurance around it as a customer or something like that. You know when you buy something on a credit card, you're like almost covered for whatever happens. Whereas if it goes through PayPal and it's a third party, that's from a client point of view. Whereas if it's Stripe, you are paying on your card. That's my only personal thing when I buy certain things online. But it wouldn't stop. PayPal is nice and convenient, to be honest, especially for small stuff.
I think it's and that's, as a consumer or even as a business, when you're buying something, it's about convenience. Let's face it, now we're all so used to home shopping. The fact that you can do it on your phone in a couple of clicks, you know, I'm ideally looking for PayPal or Apple Pay. If I have to get up and go and find my credit card or my bank card to put the last 3 digits in, I'm almost like, oh, well, I'll do it another time.
Yeah.
Insight to how lazy I am.
Apple Pay on the phone now, yeah. Any sites that got Apple Pay, it's like just one click and it's done, isn't it?
Thumbprint, Face ID, whatever it is. Which, you know, if you're selling goods, that's what you want. You want people to, you know, I think that was the big revolution for Amazon, wasn't it? The one-click buy.
Yeah.
That was the thing that kind of almost changed their fortunes in a way.
It's that sort of impulse buy type thing, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, Paul's put a comment there. I think Stripe is cheaper for the for a vendor than PayPal on the percentages.
Interesting comment from Charles there about.
Yeah.
So Charles said we used to lose a lot of customers as their automatic response was, I don't use PayPal, not realizing there is a card option available. So yeah, so Charles does. He's a photographer. He's been on here before, but you can basically buy prints and buy various products through his website as well. So that's when he sends me a little message saying, Christine, you got that totally wrong.
It's Charles who I need to speak to right now about this lighting. For goodness sake. I tell you what, I'm going to switch for a new post-it, and if this doesn't work, I'm sorry, everyone. Okay, I think this one's working. This one's not bent. This one was bent, you see. There you go. That's going to be like, you're using Post-its for lighting.
So anyone tuning into this at this very second is just going to be thinking, what is this? What is this?
I'm sorry. If it carries on, I'll just turn off my camera because I'm trying to concentrate, but it's very difficult for me.
Get some curtains and close them.
I know, Jane. I know. We're renovating.
Cool. Okay. So what else? So I was thinking, what am I going to talk about today? And I haven't been switched off from the social media news, but I have had all my time's been taken up at the minute with speaking to clients, prospects, putting quotes together, strategizing, all that sort of stuff, and a little bit of Clubhouse. So that's where I spent most of my time. But sort of doing a bit of a quick scan, one of the things I did pick up on, which I thought was almost like a bit of a like, why bother? What's the point kind of thing? But it is worth mentioning. So Facebook are going to remove. Do you remember there's that area on your Facebook page called Our Story? And you could put like you'd put like 2 or 3 paragraphs just describing your business, you know, what you do, who you serve, how you work, kind of thing. You'd have a nice image at the top, and that would sit there on your Facebook page, which you could only really see on desktop. Well, Facebook are removing that, and that's fine. But that piece of content on your Facebook page was indexed. So if people were doing a Google search, that's one of those things. Somewhere in that Google search, your Facebook page will be appearing, and the content you had in the Our Story section would basically impact, where you appear in those search results. So it's kind of like no one looked at it anyway. So it makes total sense they're removing it. It's not a big deal. But what we do need to make sure we do is any text that's there, that we're essentially copying it from there and making sure that we're pasting it in one of the boxes available, one of the areas available under your about section on your Facebook page, just so that you've still got that nice index text there on your page. So something really, really basic, really, really practical, not very interesting, but something we need to make sure people are doing. So that's that. So Clubhouse, I kind of feel like if we're going to talk about Clubhouse, we should get someone on that's been on the platform a fair bit and dug in and have a chat around that. I know, Jane, you've only just started using the platform, haven't you? Amanda, yes. I think Amanda, you're coming up to a week now you've been on there?
No, only a few days, so sort of Monday-ish. I think I went on. So I've been into 2 rooms so far, so it does feel quite new. And I know we've spoken about it on Live Lunch before, but I'm still a little bit reticent in kind of is this just going to be a bit of a fad? But I think you're more bought into it than I am. But maybe I'm just a grumpy old woman. I don't know. But I resisted.
I really don't know what you want me to say right now.
Yes, you are.
For me, it's almost like a development on what we're doing here in Live Lunch.
Yeah, it feels like that, and it's kind of interesting to see how people are using it, and I'm kind of curious to see if it gains any more traction kind of outside of the marketing and celeb sphere. So
I'm already starting to see. So I've got to bring that up on screen. I'm just going to leave that there for a little minute or two. I'm in the last 3-4 days, I'm starting to see far more sort of specific conversations, basically. So there was a group on there last night, a room rather, I should say, last night, that was talking about people with children doing their GCSEs this year, GCSEs and BTECs. So obviously that's for a very niche audience. Given that this is an international platform, I ran a room yesterday at 1:00 that was for recruitment marketers. So again, very niche. So I think as soon as it goes into that place where it is more niche conversations, I think it will really come into its own. I also think it needs to be on Android now, and they've kind of gone from saying sort of 3 months to, we're talking weeks rather than months now.
So I was going to say, I think it needs to go onto Android. It feels a bit exclusive.
Absolutely. But yeah, when you first join the platform, because of the people you follow and all that kind of stuff, you end up with a lot of conversations going on where it's like these sort of mega entrepreneurs, billionaires, that kind of stuff that are all over the social media piece. And a lot of the content you're being fed is what they're doing. or the opportunities to join the rooms and listen to the conversations. But I think it's like, if you're quite tactical about who you follow, and you're following the influencers within your sector, within your industry, I think as the days and weeks go on, you're going to find some really good opportunities to have some really valuable conversations. But it is if you're minded that way, it's quite addictive when you first get into it. So, there are things that are scheduled that I specifically tune in to join that conversation. But they're literally like 1 or 2 a week, and basically 5 to 7, if I'm still here and working away, I put it on in the background and sort of listening to some conversations then. But I've put some quite sort of strict rules in place so that I'm not just on there 24/7, because I can see how people do that, and it's like the notifications are crazy, absolutely crazy. So turn those off.
Yes, I noticed
it's
I saw so one of the recruiters that I work with, they work quite a lot with people within the tech industry. And one of the recruiters that work at this company had posted on LinkedIn about Clubhouse. She'd recently been invited to join it. And she'd basically joined a room with a lot of big companies within the tech industry, a lot of people that are really high up in there. And she managed to sort of join the conversation with them. Took the conversation over to LinkedIn, and ended up getting 3 leads, all from just joining this one room. So I think, yeah, like you said, Christina, if you're connecting or following, I don't know exactly how it works, with the people within your industry and the right people, it can be useful in that way. You can make it work for you because you have that opportunity to communicate with people that you might not necessarily have had the opportunity to connect with before. But yeah, I thought it was quite interesting how she'd managed to do that. It's the first sort of review like that I'd read. So
yeah, I've seen actually there was a recruiter I was talking to yesterday who isn't one of our clients, and she was saying she'd been in there the previous evening, had joined so she's a legal recruiter, and she'd been in a room, and it was legal professionals, and they were talking about how they can improve their CVs, advance their careers, that kind of thing. And she joined the conversation. She offered some value, gave some advice, guidance. So, if anyone wants to catch up with me and talk individually, more than happy to help. This is my email address. And remember, this isn't pre-recorded. So if you were in the room at that moment, you'd have heard her read out her email address. Okay. And she's had like 40, 50 people email her out of that room. Now, what I've asked her to come back to me and say, okay, out of those 40, 50, how many of those individuals are kind of like, viable, people you can take forward and you can work with and essentially, place and earn revenue from. So that'll be interesting to see. But I think going into Clubhouse with this, I'm going to listen, I'm going to offer value, and if I say something interesting, people will want to follow up and connect with me, and I can turn it into an opportunity from there. But also listening, and if someone that's potentially a prospect for me says something interesting, that's a way in for me to communicate with those people as well. That isn't a sales message. And it's a really nice, warm way of contacting people. So yeah. Don't know if you guys heard.
Oh. I don't know if you heard any of that. Oh, I'm gone.
You got a Clubhouse. Well, to be fair, it sounds like I might have to stand corrected slightly then.
How long have you had the access to it, Amanda?
It sounds like Clubhouse. So I have had access for a while, but I only joined on Monday.
Oh, okay.
Did you get bored of us?
We said that you'd gone to Clubhouse.
No idea what happened. Did I disappear mid-sentence?
Yeah.
You were saying, I don't know if you heard, and then you went. It was very mysterious.
It was. I was just talking away, and then I realised like you'd all frozen, and I was like, "Am I just talking to myself again?"
You were.
So what were you saying? What were you saying?
I said, well, it sounds like I might have to stand corrected if people are actually getting leads out of it, you know, which from a business development point of view is all you want, as long as you say as long as they're viable. But yeah, I readily admit I can be a slow adopter of new tech.
But change.
It's because I'm a bit of contrary, people might think this is a bit strange, but I am an introvert, so I find a lot of these things quite draining. So I like time to myself, and it's just another platform that's noise. So I think our job as marketers is to find out, which ones will give the best return. So Clubhouse might be great depending on the sector you're in, but it's like when I think we often talk about the example, we had an oil and pharmaceutical recruiter who thought they ought to be on Pinterest. And we were kind of, no, that's not where your audience is. But, if your audience is likely to be hanging out in Clubhouse, then of course it's worth exploring.
Totally. Cool. Okay. So has anyone got anything else to add?
I guess the point that I didn't cover was the swipe up in LinkedIn stories. So I sort of stole that one from Amanda and then never spoke about it. So I feel like I need to speak about it. But yes, they've added, I don't know if anybody has noticed, Jane has been doing it for Green Umbrella, a swipe up link in Instagram stories now. So I believe for
LinkedIn stories.
LinkedIn stories, right, I'm going. LinkedIn story. So I believe for a personal story, you need to have 5,000 connections. And for a page and a profile page on LinkedIn, you don't. There's not a limit as far of how many followers you need for that. So I think it's good. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done it already, but I think it's good now that they have done it. And like I said, Jane's been using it for swipe up for our blogs and our website and things. So it'll be interesting to see how many people actually use the swipe up button. Are they adding a That's a question, actually. Are they adding anything in the analytics to see how many people have actually used that? Do we know? Or
I haven't seen anything about that, to be honest.
I haven't seen it. It'd be interesting if they did. I think it would be good to know how many people have actually swiped up and clicked through.
Homework for next week.
Yep.
I don't have to steal Amanda's homework.
Cool. Okay. I don't know if something's going on with StreamYard, but everything's really breaking up. So I'm going to draw this to a close because I don't know if this is just me or whether this is going to be on the broadcast as well.
I think it's just you. It feels okay here.
Yeah. Everything seems clear here.
Okay. It's just because Paul's just commented saying maybe Emily has sunstroke. So I'm wondering if he just had the same experience I did while she was talking.
Oh no!
We'll have to look back. Cool. Okay. Well, like I said, let's draw it to a close anyway. We're kind of at time. It's 10 to 1. Like I said, there you go. Bit of a chitter chatter about what's happening in our world right now, and we'll be back next week at 12 o'clock on Thursday. And I think we've got a guest lined up, so look out for some announcements on that. Amanda, you're nodding your head. Is that all confirmed now?
Yes.
Cool.
We do have a guest, so look out for the announcement this week.
Excellent. Cool. Brilliant. And we will. You can tell I'm like hardly hearing anything because I'm like guessing what people are saying, just trying to nod in the appropriate place. But thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next week, Thursday at 12 noon. Bye for now.
Bye.
All right.